think we talked about it a little bit another time, but like how Disney and Pixar have been like going apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I feel like, what was the last Pixar movie? Good Dinosaur?
Yes. Yeah. Zootopia was the one that we went to go see, and that was Disney.
Yeah. And so, Zootopia was really, really good.
Yes.
And it was one of Disney's longest movies, other than Fantasia.
Was it the first one or the second?
The first one.
Okay.
But just like, because Zootopia is so good, and like Rich Moore directed it, who he was one of the directors who also did Wreck-It Ralph, which was also so good. Probably
my favorite.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite Disney movies.
I especially really loved Wreck-It Ralph. From what I felt, it was really unique.
Yeah.
At the time, because I love the idea of like the point of view of like the characters in a video game, and like I really loved how, you know, they would have like our perspective, like, you know, if we were the actual player, but then like zoom through the screen and then like you see like their world. Like as one of the openers, I thought was really cool. And then how hopefully everyone has seen it by now, so hopefully we won't have any spoilers.
Oh, it's statute of limitations.
If you haven't seen it, there will be spoilers on this podcast.
Whatever.
So, hey, I'm putting it out there because I know people hate spoilers. But anyway, I loved how, you know, the main
villain.
No, how all the games, you know, the plug-in is with the power strip or whatever. Like, I really thought that was really clever. How they had the Grand Central Station.
Game Central Station.
Game Central, yes. Based off of Grand Central. But I really loved that. I thought that was really clever. I know Disney couldn't get, like, a whole lot of characters, but they did really well at getting, like, you know, like Bowser. They had Pac-Man. They had Zangief. Of course, they created their own, but they also had, like, Sonic. They actually talked about characters.
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned Mario.
Even though he didn't show up.
No.
But he was talking about.
But, like, you know, sort of that same... Obviously not as bad as, like, it was for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like, actually getting, like, Looney Tunes and, like...
And Disney.
And Disney, like, getting that to work out. But, like...
I'm trying to remember... I guess Disney is the one who actually owned it.
What?
In the first place? I think Disney was the one that...
Roger Rabbit?
Was it? I feel like it is.
Either way.
I could be wrong.
It doesn't matter.
I know. I'm just trying to think and all the storage in my brain.
But...
Which side they were on.
I mean, at least video game properties aren't as big as, like, obviously, like, Disney... or like Looney Tunes, like Warner Brothers properties are, and so it's probably not as like expensive to license a character rather than like.
Well, it might still be expensive, but like, well, considering Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like there was like a lot of time that they had various characters because they were kind of throughout it. Whereas, you know, with Wreck-It Ralph, like they talked about them or you saw them, but it was only for maybe like within a few minutes of, you know, time frame. Yeah. So it wasn't nearly as bad. And then of course they designed their own characters based off of actual characters. But at the same time, perhaps like now versus as it was then, it's a chance to, you know, have more fans come and see it and be like, hey, if you're a fan of Mario, hey, there's a cameo of Bowser in here. Or like, I don't know, I guess like in a way like maybe to kind of get them out there even more, per se.
But like, okay, so how like Disney had a story like Wreck-It Ralph or a story like Zootopia that is more than just like, here's a princess and here's a prince and the prince saves the princess. And like
stereotypical fairy tale.
Yeah, but like instead, like you have these complex stories that are like, oh, here's a problem, and like, you know, in Wreck-It Ralph, it's like he's a character that's underappreciated, he's a villain, and then goes into another video game. There's like this underlying turbo thing.
Well, it's like, a thing of like being stereotyped and then like not learning the other. Like, he was stereotyped as a villain because that's what he was created for. But the other characters in this game like didn't really take the opportunity to know him. So it's just they kept the stereotype.
Yeah.
And like,
but like,
and didn't evolve from that until obviously the end. Even when like he proved them wrong, like kind of towards the end, but not really at the end. Sorry, speaking away from the mic. You know, whenever he came back with his medal,
yeah,
but he was still like rejected because he was still seen as the bad guy, and
so like, but so like you have that complex story of like the stereotype, but then there's also like, you know, a relationship with like Vanellope, and then like a relationship between Felix and like Calhoun, and like these just like intertwining things, and then like plot twist, and now you have, hey, this is the spoiler, like the turbo thing is like actually King Candy, and then like a really complex story that like, because to be honest, the first time that I saw it, I was like, whoa. Like,
yeah, that was the first time I think I actually went to a movie and I couldn't predict it, which is probably why I really enjoy it more than any other movie that they've created, because typically I can kind of predict like where stuff is going to go. Unfortunately, I did kind of predict Zootopia. I did kind of predict at least the villain for Frozen, and everything. And I mean, I understand because they are more meant for children than they are for adults. So of course they can't like over make it like not as obvious in a way, but like, I don't know. That's why I really appreciated Wreck-It Ralph, because when you watch the movie and you think you know who the villain is, but like, or like they talk about like this potential villain for like a second, and then they divert away from him.
Yeah.
And then you honestly don't hear about him again until a lot later. But in the meantime, like other stuff is happening. You think there's another villain, but you know, the way that they, you know, had it like with King Candy, like they just made him sound like he was just concerned for his people in the game.
Which is like so convincing. And then like probably like I still like get teary-eyed whenever like he smashes Vanellope's cart, like,
oh, I know.
But like having a complex story like that, or something like in Zootopia, where, I mean, can't do spoilers for that because that's really recent, but
well, I know not everyone has seen it though.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I'm not gonna say the spoilers for that, but
okay, don't.
Like at least something that like subtly tackles like racism.
Yeah.
In like a like interesting, like almost like detective type story, like that's still like fun and funny and clever and interesting for
it flowed really nicely because it kind of, you know, it would lead up to something, kind of calm down, it would lead up to more, and like, yeah, again, it just flowed really well, and it was kind of unique in its own way, and especially since it is so long, they didn't have like a super climax until the very end.
Yeah.
They had like a few climaxes, which was nice, and then they eventually like ended it on a really good note. I will say, did I say that it was a little bit more predictable this time?
Yeah.
But that's because I think I looked into something and I was able to look at the character and I was just like, you know. Yeah. But like, hopefully that won't give anything away.
No. But and then you have kind of like, not necessarily with Pixar, but even within Disney still, like like Frozen, even though is like the biggest hit.
Yeah.
Like
biggest hit in a while for sure.
Even though Frozen is like so big, like as far as story and plot goes and like flow and everything, it just felt really like clunky in a way that like the first like half of the movie is a good setup, and then like the rest of it just like falls away really quickly.
I mean, I know they have been saying that they've been working on this for a while. You know, at first, like, they had one way that they were going, the creators and the writers there, and then, like, you know, I think I feel like somewhere I read that it, you know, just took them years before they finally settled on something that they really liked. Mm-hmm. And I know everyone's, like, heard all the things and all the opinions of these, so I'm sorry, you're going to probably hear another one. Not probably, you are. I do agree. I do think they set it up for something really good. There's just a lot of plot holes that they just didn't fix. Mm-hmm. And you and I have talked about it before, like, if only they could have taken it in the same context as how they did, like, the villain for Ralph, for Wreck-It Ralph, mm-hmm. it could have been really good. Like, though maybe they were too worried that it would be too much like Wicked, since you had the same actress who did Elphaba and Elsa. Mm-hmm. Because it literally was kind of turning into that at one point, since we had seen both of them. Mm-hmm. You know, the one character who has like this, you know, this
dark power or whatever.
Well, dark power or something you can't understand or unexplainable. That's what I was trying to think of. This unexplainable power, and then of course everyone's like, oh, like, you're immediately a bad person, and like mm-hmm. they could have totally taken Elsa and really worked on that. And I know that's what they were doing at first, because mm-hmm. In our last podcast together, we were talking about, you know, early development. She had black hair, she was the villain, and there was actually even a song, if anyone has ever heard it, there was an actual song that was actually a more evil song for her with mm-hmm. Anna. It's on the soundtrack, mm-hmm.
the
extended one, because there's a song, you know, whenever they had their big reprise, mesh up, in the movie, mm-hmm. When they're talking about...
When they're arguing.
Yeah. It might have been supposed to be during that point, that this first song came in, mm-hmm. and that's when it actually turned, and Anna was trying to help her and bring her back, but then she like said the wrong thing, and that caused Elsa to like actually start turning evil. Yeah. Which I'm like, that could have been so cool. Yeah. You know, it would have been really cool to see her actually kind of commit to it mm-hmm. in a way, like to kind of accept, like, well, I mean, she did accept that she had these powers, but like to kind of still turn evil, kind of like how Elphaba did, and just be like, this is what people are labeling me as, so I'm going to roll with it. But I guess at the same time, I understand if Disney didn't want to, because they're like, we don't want that to be an example for children, especially young girls, because everyone looks up to Elsa. Like, out of the two, Elsa's definitely the bigger one.
But even still, like, they could have made it to where, like, oh, look, Elsa's the villain, like, villain. Yeah. And so, like, villains still have songs, and like even mm-hmm. like secondary villains, like Gaston's song is still extremely catchy, but like you're not supposed to like Gaston, and you don't. Like,
he's one of my favorites.
Well, yeah, but he's also like a favorite because he's so bad, you know.
Well, his character is really interesting. Definitely, like, the way that they have him for the animation movie is like a little bit different versus him in the Broadway. If anyone's ever seen the Broadway, what I love about Broadway, especially the Disney ones, they definitely get to elaborate more. And so when myself and my girlfriends got to go see it, I love Gaston even more, because he wasn't just the stereotypical handsome guy in town who was seeking this one girl, Belle, and like the stereotypical like kind of muscle head that was just like, oh, I want the perfect girl because I'm the perfect man. It's like, no, like in the Broadway, they kind of made him like have more where it's like he is maybe slightly psychotic, you know. It's like he really wants Belle, and you know, they kind of develop him more, and I do really appreciate that. I mean, it's like a slight development, but I appreciate it more.
But at the same time, like, people don't see the Broadway, like it.
Yeah, people, I know.
And so, like,
just if you get the chance.
People see the movie. And so, like, yes, I brought up Gaston as, like, a villain character, but, like, I mean, there's also other villain songs. Because, I mean, even in Tangled, like, Mother Knows Best, like...
That one was a brilliant one.
Yeah, like, using the song to sort of characterize the villainness of the villain.
Yeah. And I'm not a music person, and you definitely are, and I know you always get a kick out of that, like, way more, like, structurally and everything. I mean, I can still listen to it and be like, the way that, you know, they turn that into, like, a minor key or something, like, is really brilliant to really twist it, especially for her, because she's so manipulative. Yeah. And it's that whole ideal of, like, mother knows best, so, like, you better not complain or, like, rebel against her kind of thing. But like, if only they did that for, like, Elsa with her Let It Go. And I know we've talked about this before, like, how cool it would have been if, like, they still use Let It Go, but, like, at some point, like, maybe they turn it like, to a minor kind of tone. And,
like, The Cold Never Bothered Me Anyway could be such a, like, sinister tone if they had taken it that way. Yeah.
Like, they had so much opportunity, and again, I wasn't, you know, none of us were there in the room, like, whenever they were discussing this kind of stuff, like, where they wanted to go. Like, again, I'm sure they wanted to have her be the villain, but it obviously didn't happen. And again, maybe, like I said, like, you know, if she was going to be a role model for young girls, they obviously didn't want her to go bad. Yeah. But they still could have played with it, like, making her more realistic, where it's like, you know, she's isolated herself. When she's finally opened up and finally being herself, she's outcasted. And I know a lot of girls have gone through that, and boys, you know, like, you know, they're so, like, pent up, and then, like, they finally, you know, finally expose kind of, like, who they are, like, their interests or something, but then they're, like, suddenly downcasted. And then naturally you just want to, like, recoil and just be like, "Arr," to the world, you know. And I know, like, there's a lot of people that really believe that the Let It Go song is, like, kind of a song for people to come out and say, like, I'm gay, you know. Like, I've heard that theory. Do I 100% believe in it? I don't know. But if you want that to be kind of your song, I mean, cool. Like, you know, you feel that for a reason, and so I get it, you know. It still would have been really interesting if they turned it and then they made her kind of go darker, but only to bring her back later. And
then it makes the redemption feel that so much bigger.
Better. And something that, you know, the girls and I always talk about, it would have been so cool, and I think a lot of people also said this too, if there was a reprise at the end whenever Anna was frozen, when Elsa finally saying to her, "Do you want to build a snowman?" And fingers crossed that, you know, they've been talking about having it be a Broadway show next, because unfortunately Beauty and the Beast is no longer going to be showing anymore after this year. So that might mean that they're going to be making room for new shows, so probably Frozen, especially since that's been out on the table. Hopefully they'll add more reprises, since they've been doing that before. For anyone who hasn't really seen the Broadways, again, sorry I keep talking about it, but, like, something that's really cool, because you have basically 3 hours to work with. Not only do you have the original story, but you can elaborate on it more. Beast has his own song. That's probably my favorite song ever. And what's really cool is they use the music from the very beginning of the movie. And that's probably my favorite melody ever. And so they interpreted it, and it's beautiful. It'd be really cool if you could, like, clip it in there, but I know you won't. It's okay.
No, well, also because I don't want to get sued by freaking Disney.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Because they will take all my money and then some. But
if you want to look it up, I believe it's "Let the World Be Done with Me" is the song, or if I can't have her, I can't remember. I just said it's my favorite song. Okay. But anyway, but yeah, like, he has his own song, and I love it. Belle has like another one that's by herself. She has one with her father. There's another one with Gaston. When it's kind of actually another one of his. If you listen to The Little Mermaid, there's one that Eric has, and he doesn't have a song in the actual movie.
And I feel like that's another movie that like doesn't spend enough time sort of like making certain characters important. Like
how so?
Well, kind of how Eric sort of comes off as just like, again, like just that prince character that's just like, I'm here to save the day. Well, and the whole movie is about getting to him, but not really why him, you know?
Yeah, well, I know you have told me that all the Disney princes are kind of the same.
All the princes are the same.
Okay, let's be fair. At least like the older ones were until Aladdin, I would say, because then from then on, at least like the princes actually had like an actual part per se. Eric was kind of getting there too. Yeah, Eric came before, I believe. So like before it was just the prince that came to rescue the damsel in distress kind of thing. You know, you had literally the one prince from Snow White, which is a creeper. Let me just say, I'm sorry. Like, yes. You had Cinderella's prince. I love the I think it's like a Tumblr meme or something where it's like labeling each prince, and he was the one looking for a trophy wife, which is kind of true. That's not Disney's fault. That's just the story of Cinderella. But I know it's also to like, you know, marriage and stuff, whatever. Let's see. You had Philip, who was kind of also a creeper for Aurora, Sleeping Beauty.
Who was also like 16.
She was 16. He was at least 18. I know the ages are always kind of weird.
Oh, yeah.
I think the two biggest gaps were Snow White, who was 14, and then her prince, which was at least like 18.
Yeah.
And then Rapunzel, who's 18, and then they said that Flynn was like 26.
Yeah, but
maybe
I guess by
younger?
Today's standards, it's more okay because, one, they're both adults.
Yeah.
But
she's legal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he's like 24, 26, somewhere in there. I know he's like obviously older than her. But it works because, I mean, I didn't think about it right away whenever I saw it, but then when I actually read it somewhere and I was like, okay, well, I'm not too worried about this.
But you see the ages and you're like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you see like
Snow White and her prince, it's like she is a child.
Yeah.
That is not okay.
But anyways, to go back, like...
But it's okay, because my theory... Sorry, I had to say this. I feel like maybe in the end, she died anyway, because whose castle is up in the clouds? Let's just be honest. Like, I don't know. I could be really reading into it, but I thought about it much later as I grew up. I was like, you know... Maybe they were... It's super high on, like, a mountain somewhere.
Maybe it was Bossing Say.
Or a castle in the sky. I don't know.
But in the same way that, like, yeah, up until Aladdin, all the princes were basically just like plot devices.
Yeah.
In that, like.
But I mean, that was kind of just how it was. I mean, I know that's when Walt was obviously more involved because he was around then. But I mean, I think that was just trying to start off stuff, and then obviously I think as time goes by, you're going to have different writers, you're going to have different directors, and they're going to be like, let's really like up this character.
I mean, probably more of it was like making the fairy tale just like come to life and also not be like awful. 'Cause like the Grimm's fairy tales obviously are like way more brutal, so like I'm sure more of the intent was like just make this like magical story still be more of a magical story without being
well, as I said, like again, kind of sugar coating things. I mean, yes, it's true, but I don't mind it. I mean, especially if you're going to be having children watch this, you kind of want something good.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear about stepsisters cutting off their toes or their heels to fit into a glass slipper.
Yeah.
Only to end up having their eyes pecked out by birds, you know. Because that's what happened in the Grimm's tales.
But, like, even once you get into, like, Frozen now, like, male characters were also just plot devices.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I do love Kristoff and I love Hans. I love Hans more just because I always kind of root for the underdog character. He's
not an underdog.
I know, but I mean, both of their characters could have had so much more.
Yeah.
They really could have. Again, I know that they were basing this off of the Snow Queen, and it's kind of almost completely different.
Mm-hmm.
There's a brother and a sister on the Snow Queen from what I remember from like a movie that I was shown of the Snow Queen. It was a Hallmark one. It was live action. And the boy was, well, they weren't children, they were older. The boy was wanted because he had like a piece of like the broken mirror for the Snow Queen in his eye or something. Something really just out there that I didn't understand.
Oh, that's just what...
And then like the sister was out trying to go rescue him. So it like, you know, kind of like Frozen did set it up kind of in the same way, but not. I do like that it was about sisters. I think that's really cool. It's really something different, and I still love how Disney kind of like would catch itself and be like, you can't marry a man that you just met, you know, kind of that thing. It's like, thank you. I think even Zootopia kind of played that too. I forgot what line it was, but it was really funny, and I was just like, yes, thank you. You
know. But like in the way that Frozen was just like sort of sporadically even like here's two sisters, one has ice powers, fix the ice powers, rock trolls, ice powers.
Yeah. If anything, I feel like the trolls were just not needed at all.
Yeah.
Because one, they didn't really help anything even at the beginning. The only thing that they did was just have Anna's memory of Elsa's powers erased, and that was all it ever did. Like, there was nothing really helpful, and they could have been like completely removed, and they could have just focused on the four. Like, they still could have kept the two male characters and still had them go. I still think they could have kept Hans as the villain.
Yeah.
But, like, kind of have it again, like, how there was a big twist, like King Candy, where it's, like, divert your attention to someone who, quote-unquote, is the villain to distract you, when really the real villain's over here.
Yeah.
You know, like, I really hated how, like, all of a sudden, like, they made him a villain. I know there's theories out there where people have, like, jokingly said, oh, the trolls were the ones that, like, put powers on him, saying, like, you know, when they sang the song, they made him evil so Anna could be with Kristoff because they liked the two of them together. Or the more obvious one is he came in there premeditated, being like, I'm going to wed my way into it and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean...
But, okay, so...
The more I think about it, the more I'm like, no, it's a premeditated kind of character.
I do kind of think that the trolls were just kind of more of like... You know, since they were working on Frozen for a long time, like they had like just this bowl of ideas that were like 70% finished, and so like once they like got to the point to where it was like, all right, guys, now it's a story about sisters and love between sisters. So, and then they're like, but we have like. These trolls that are 70% finished. We have this, like, Hans character 70% finished. We have this Kristoff character. So, like, where do we put these things? And so it just kind of feels like they just kind of, like, crammed it in there without... Because if they had taken out, like, Fixer Upper, and, yes, I know everyone loves Olaf, but if they had taken away in Summer... they could have had actual songs for both Hans and Kristoff. Hans having like a villain song, and Kristoff having like,
or even taking a reprise of Love is an Open Door.
Exactly.
Which is something we've talked about.
Like how in Tangled, Mother's Knows Best
was a reprise, and it turned very evil.
Yeah. Using a reprise into like making it sinister, or showing you that the character that was there earlier is like, you know, you see their true colors. And so
literally true colors, because a great way to always show it, if you pay attention, because I always love analyzing now, like first watching it and then analyzing later, but like before, you know, she was singing this in the tower and it was still like brighter in there. Regardless, it was still like a yellow tone, so it's still kind of motherly, you know, kind of happy. It's like you feel like, okay,
this is for Tangled.
Yeah, for Tangled. But then when she does the reprise, you do get the darker tones, and there is the smoke, there is the green, which is always going to be used to show the more evil side. And also, if you pay close attention, you do notice that she has started to age at that point.
Exactly.
Whereas the first time she's younger, but the second time she's older, and, you know, you're starting to see that, you know, the reason why she wants to keep Rapunzel. And I always love seeing people's, like, you know, analyzing these movies too. And I love it whenever people point out Mother Gothel always refers to her as her flower, and she always kisses her hair, and never like her forehead. It's always the hair. And so she doesn't care about Rapunzel, which is sad, but it makes a great villain, because all she cares about is the flower within her, in her hair.
And so it's more of that like character design stuff, and like sort of showing up as like, you know, the character's actions. But like,
also something really interesting, it always seems to fit, I guess it's just in general, but I guess just kind of thinking about it, because this is how my mind works, all Disney villains seem to have the same color scheme.
A little bit. It's like
red,
purple, green, and
black, and red.
Black. Yeah.
Whereas everybody else is like brighter colors. Like, sure, they may have like a dark tone here or there, but majority of the time, like, Disney's gonna set to those four main colors.
And even though Hans had like mostly white and like had the blue accent, he had like the purplish ascot, and then like he had dark hair.
Well, he had like the red hair. He's a redhead.
Oh, yeah.
But he still, nevertheless, like, he was still, he did eventually come to that. And then I think like one of the turning points for him was when he was wearing a gray outfit.
Yeah. So
for
like
sure.
the way that the colors sort of characterize like a tonal shift is great. Because even in Frozen, like once it starts getting like towards the end where like Elsa's in the jail cell, it like becomes this like gloomy dark blue.
Oh yeah.
And like with the blizzard and like but anyways, like
I do want to eventually move on from Frozen. I feel like we're gonna talk about it way too much when people have probably heard everything that we're talking about.
Okay.
Like, just move on to something else.
Yeah, but anyways.
There is one quick thing, because I just remembered this. Sorry. And it is about Frozen. Proof that they probably could have really turned Elsa evil was, obviously she sends Marshmallow, the big snowman, after her sister, which that was something that I know a lot of people are just like, WTF, like, why are you doing this? And that kind of thing, but like...
70% finished.
Yeah.
Have to put it in the movie.
But like, there's the moment where she's literally about to kill the two guards that are attacking her.
Yeah.
And like, the fact that, you know, she has them both and she's using her powers, and you look at her face and it's just like, they could have done it.
Yeah.
Like, she would, like, they would have not, obviously they didn't kill them, but like, you know that they could have made her character that. She could have continued that. And it would have been a lot like Elphaba from Wicked, but like, it would have been so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean...
But maybe they were trying to steer clear of that because they wanted to be more original, but again, I don't know.
Did you want to talk a little about Pixar, or I mean, not really.
I mean, I know we had talked about them after Zootopia. Like, I do like Pixar. I personally have not seen like some of their latest films. I didn't see Planes or Planes 2. I didn't see The Good Dinosaur. I think the last one I remember seeing was Brave.
Yeah.
I think was the last one.
Well, I mean, Inside Out.
Oh, Inside Out. Yes. We watched that not too long ago.
But like, yeah, so Pixar has been like hit and miss. Like,
which I'm kind of sad about because I know they were doing really well. I do know that they kind of separated. They're Disney and Pixar are still like obviously working together, or like they're still saying like, you know, they're under the same thing.
The Disney logo is slowly getting smaller in all their marketing, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad because it's like, you know, grew up with that kind of stuff because, you know, Toy Story. You know. And I know they can produce like really wonderful things. Their little short stories have been really good. Even like just Disney's have been really good. We watched the second edition of the short stories that they did. And I do want to kind of talk about those now that we bring them up. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of worried about Pixar. Like, I know they've been the ones to definitely play on sequels. I mean, obviously there's 3 Toy Stories. There's going to be a 4th.
Why?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I love you, Pixar, but please, like, you ended on such a good note.
Yeah.
And, like, literally, I was crying at the end of it the first time I saw it because it was just, like, because Andy was kind of, like, our age, you know, like, our generation's age. And so, like, him going off to college, like, and leaving everybody behind, like, I was like, that hit home with me so much. And it's like, I want to go home and, like, hug all my stuffed animals
but
or
those
something.
those are the only, like, Pixar and even just Disney sequels that have worked. That, like, out of all of the Disney and Pixar sequels, like, Toy Story is really the only one that, like, has actually, like, succeeded in that way. Because, like...
Well, Lion King 2 was actually really good.
I don't...
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. And I don't particularly care.
It was actually one of the better ones. Me personally, I feel like that one was actually pretty good just because you got to kind of see like another side of it. It was interesting. I thought like Lion King 1.5 and it just focused on Timon and Pumbaa was really interesting.
It was funny, but still not necessary.
No, the animation was a lot better than like the most sequels. Most sequels, I think that's the other thing is like I understand they can't budget the same animation as they did with the first one. So at that point, I am kind of like, why do you do it? But but at the same, but if it's to create jobs, I get it. So I mean, I can't be mad at them.
But like, how many Aladdins are there? 4? Aren't there 4?
No, I think there's just 3.
Oh, okay. Because there's 3 and then the show.
Yeah, the TV show, which I grew up on that wasn't so bad because I remember some good episodes.
Yeah.
So there was Return of Jafar, which is the second one, and then and the King of Thieves, which was focusing on Aladdin's dad. Surprise. Which was
at that point, like, why?
But the animation was still just as bad. So it's just kind of like,
They also had like Beauty and the Beast sequels.
Those were bad.
They also had
they had potential. It's just again like the artwork.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Disney, I know you can do so much better.
Tarzan and Jane.
Oh Lord. There was 2 for that one as well. There was a prequel and a sequel, and then there was the TV show, which that one was okay. There's 2 Cinderellas. There's one that
Isn't there like
there's 2 more. There's the one that happens kind of like right after, and it's like Cinderella, like kind of, you know, settling in as princess. And then there's the third one, which is my favorite of the 2 that came after, which is like basically like
time travel,
which is well, it's only with godmother's one, where you finally get to see how truly evil like stepmother really is, and she's like, I'm going to ruin Cinderella, kind of thing, which again, I thought was interesting.
But still, more stuff that isn't neccy.
Little Mermaid 2 was interesting. That's the one a lot of people don't realize
happens. The only Disney
happens.
princess with a kid.
Yeah. She got pregnant like probably right afterwards, and her daughter's 12 in the movie, so doing the math.
But like, and then there was,
so that was interesting.
So like on the Pixar side, there's like Cars 2,
and that focused on Mater.
Planes, if you want to call that 2. A sequel. It's like a spin-off sort of thing, and then that one had like,
oh, okay. Well, okay. So you were talking about Planes, and then there was the second one, which talked about the big fires that happened in California, which I understand why they did it, because at the time that's when there were a lot of fires in California, and since they're there, they know it better than anybody. But honestly, like,
why even?
I do get that if they're trying to target, like, obviously the boys, because Disney has been kind of more lenient for, you know, girl audiences, because you had the more princesses.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have, like, Hercules, you have Aladdin, you have Peter Pan, you know, you had the Tarzan as, like, more male.
Peter Pan also had a sequel.
That one wasn't too bad. That one focused on Jane.
That one wasn't too bad, actually. But, like, because as much as I love Tangled, and as much as I love Princess and the Frog, and, like, if they could make, like, the same quality of movie for a sequel of those, that would be great.
Yeah.
But I know that they won't.
No.
And so I don't want them to touch it.
No, the only, like, sequel that they've done is the little short of the marriage for Tangled.
Yeah.
And that one was actually fine.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was short. It was to the point. I don't think they need to elaborate any more on it. They need to just not touch it. They're, sorry, Frozen, but I think they've been saying, like, maybe a sequel.
They are making a Frozen 2, I think. Which they already had another short, which was Frozen Fever.
That one was cute. I thought that was actually cute. It didn't help, you know, like, had the sisters, like, talk since then, you know, because that was never addressed in the story. Like, hey, like, I have powers. Hey, but you tried to kill me. But hey, like, I saved your life, you know, kind of thing. It's like, you know, like, did they patch things up? But hopefully, like, in the sequel, like, things will probably finally, like, come together, you know, but who's to say? But but now Pixar's doing Finding Dory, which I know Ellen's been wanting to do for a long time.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting. I
certainly hope so.
I know from people I've heard, they're either for Finding Nemo or they're kind of just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I think it's just because at the time, since it was like such a big hit, I know one of our friends had said like they had just seen it so much that they got tired of it, you know, and it's just like, that's why they don't watch it anymore, because it was literally everywhere. And so I think they'll do fine with it. I think it's still going to be a really fun story. I'm so happy there is like a whale shark in it, and she's Dory's friend. So I'm just like, yes, you know, because I love those things. And then I have no idea what Toy Story 4 is going to be about.
Yeah.
I know they've been doing like the little snippets and shorts, which have been great. Like, I love the one with Trixie during Christmas when
I haven't seen that one.
It's so good. I love it. It's really cute, and just also because Kristen
Shaw.
I love her. I love her so much after Gravity Falls. So, like, whenever there's more of her as Trixie, I'm so happy.
Yeah. Oh, man, do we have time to talk about Gravity Falls? I would be perfectly okay if we just, like, tabled this whole Pixar discussion just to talk about Gravity Falls.
We can't say too much, though, because I know not everyone has seen it.
We could at least just talk about, like, the first part and just... in general about how good it is.
Okay. Just season 1, you know,
because
it's not giving away stuff.
Is that what we have talked about, but like the sheer genius that Alex Hirsch is for one to like set up the whole thing and like call back everything else and like all of the secrets and stuff that are in there to actually like fit all the way throughout the show.
He was really smart about mapping everything out, and I remember like looking at some of the behind the scenes stuff. Like, he literally had on board like episode 1, episode 2, and like what he wanted. Like, they didn't have everything out, but like you saw that he had it mapped out and he knew what he wanted. And like, I know there's some parts here and there where like I think like a setting didn't match up correctly, or like maybe something was like in the wrong perspective or whatever. Like, there's just minor things, and that's just me being nitpicky. But I mean, overall, he did really well to keep it consistent to where there weren't really any plot holes. And I just kind of love how weird it is in general. Like, the really funny like little tidbits that if you go back and the fans can find, and he has even said on the Read Between the Pines, which is like a behind the scenes episode that he did for the finale, or just before the finale, like he was saying how the fans are like way smarter than him. And I'm like, dude, you're just as smart because you're the one who came up with all this stuff. Like, come on.
Also, it's not just him, but like he has a great team of people.
Oh my god,
that, you know, great artists, great voice actors, great everyone who all make the whole thing better. But the second thing that I was gonna say, for a man to truly like set aside like whatever money offers or whatever to just go like, no, this is 2 seasons long and that's it. That's all you're getting. This is how I wanted it to be. And instead of letting it get to the point of like, you know, a never-ending show that lives long enough to hate itself, or
like, I'm sorry, like the ones that fall under that category, and I'm sorry if I'm stepping on toes and stuff like that, but I know, but I care because you know, this is what I'm passionate about and what I hope to go into. But like, you know, I grew up with Fairly Odd Parents. I loved it. I loved the characters when they first started out. You know, Wanda and Cosmo were kind of equally like, you know, equal in like their personalities. Like, she was still the smarter one, but like he was kind of a dumb stupid, as I always like to say. Like, he would be kind of idiotic, but he was kind of smart at the same time, which is really interesting. But then as time grew on, he became dumber and she became more naggy, and then eventually Timmy just didn't have that kind of care as much anymore.
He just became a big brat.
A little bit. He wasn't as humbled about stuff as much, or at least like the episodes I've seen.
And then the show just like,
and then they have the
seemingly
baby
running out of ideas, and it's like, let's add a baby, let's add a dog.
And now there's a girl that they share. Timmy shares his
it doesn't matter.
I can't words, but
okay,
like,
so there's
and then
that.
like, then there's SpongeBob, and I didn't grow up with that, but you did.
Yeah, and so like in SpongeBob, there's an episode where basically Mr. Krabs convinces Plankton to kill himself. I think
I remember you telling me about that.
That's pretty much a thing. And it's supposed to be funny, and it isn't, and it's real bad.
Yeah, I like. I understand that they're wanting to keep it, but now I just feel like there's stuff where it's just getting like too weird, even for SpongeBob.
I mean, there's like the Batman quote: "You either live long enough to be, or you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain."
Yeah,
like that's kind of what happens to a lot of these shows. Is that like they start out really well, and it's like,
well, even like, I'm sorry, but Big Bang Theory, like I love that show, and I know that was kind of like one of the really big things for people. Like, if you weren't a nerd but you watched it, like you called yourself a nerd, and you know, all that kind of stuff, or like, you know, people hate it because it's like, oh, that's not true, or like you can relate to it. I really liked it because I thought it was very different, because as we all know, nerds were always looked down upon, you know, they were always made fun of. And here's a show literally about 4 nerds. And then of course one of them gets the hot girl, and all that kind of stuff. And
get hot girls.
Yeah, Bernadette. And I know, you know, 3 of the 4 of them, you know, obviously had sex a lot and everything, And then you had Sheldon, and I really enjoyed Sheldon because I thought he was really different. I really liked how they made him, you know, still focus on, you know, what he was passionate about, which is science and, you know, figuring out everything. And even though they brought Amy Farrah Fowler in, and, you know, they kind of kept playing with her character a lot, which, you know, they did a lot with a few of the characters, but primarily her, because she came in, she was kind of like how Sheldon was when he first came in. Then they made her kind of bisexual. Well, not kind of. They did play with the idea of bisexual with Penny. Then they made it to where she was so, like, crazy about having sex with Sheldon. And then it never happened. And then finally, sorry, spoilers, but, like, they finally had her and Sheldon finally, like, kiss for the first time. And then you slowly start seeing their development. And supposedly it's, like, been 5 years in the show and they still haven't had sex. Well, apparently there's a moment where I think it's, like, season 7 was where she just, like, decided to leave. I think it was 7. It was the more recent one or something.
I mean, regardless of...
But, like, they completely changed him because they wanted to just keep that stereotype. And I'm like, I get it, because I know that's, like, for most of your audience. But at the same time, I really enjoyed how they kept him so pure for so long, but then to suddenly just kind of throw it all away. And it was a dumb reason too. The only reason they brought Amy back was because Sheldon was willing to have sex with her. And they did it. And he was going to propose to her and all this kind of stuff. Sorry, spoilers, but, like, I'm ranting. But, like, literally that was the only thing to bring her back. And she was gone for most of the season. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that to me is like throwing away everything Sheldon was before and just to make it all up like that. And now he's no different than his roommate.
Yeah, but that's just the compulsion for shows that have interesting characters to then drive the characters into the ground with just how much of that character they are. And so, like, they just keep turning up the knob on, like...
Yeah. Even Raj, like, he was probably one of my favorites next to Howard. And Howard, I think, honestly had one of the better character developments. Because, you know, he was the playboy who always tried to have sex with everybody because, you know, probably a deeper thing where, you know, whatever, he married. And then he finally started to calm down, but then, like, you know, resolving a lot of stuff. And I felt like he had a way better development than all the others. I kind of wish, in a way, like, they could have kept Raj maybe kind of being curious about maybe men, you know, because they kind of kept playing with the idea that he could be gay. Yeah. But then they decided no. And last I remember, he was dating some really weird chick who was really into horror stuff, and he didn't like that, you know.
Yeah. But, I mean, okay, so regardless of, like, driving characters into the ground, like, at least with Gravity Falls, like, something about, like, keeping it that short. Yeah. And not letting... Because I can definitely see how if Gravity Falls had gotten any longer, like, you would have... Like, it would have been just long enough for you to be like, all right, now everyone's annoying. Yeah. Like, because, like, Mabel is, like, is so, like...
She is my spirit
So much Mabel.
I love her, though.
Yeah, no, I know. And I do, too. And this is, like...
But I know she could probably get really annoying after a while.
It's something I talked to Z about, that, like, of every character of that type in every other, like, type of show or whatever, like... You get really annoyed with that character. For whatever reason, Mabel is just charming enough to be like, I'm still on board.
I think it's probably the way that they probably played her off. I can't think of characters that are similar like her in other shows at the moment.
But she also had, like, depth.
She did. There were moments where she did have her low points, even though she was always, like, super crazy and bubbly and just kind of like the weird sister, you know, that, you know, would just kind of do anything. She'd be over there eating, like, packets of sugar and, like, you know, whatever, have hallucinations or whatever. But, like, later in the show, like, she would develop, like,
Yeah, she was sad about like this one thing, and so like it sort of like centered around that whole thing, and
it made her really real, and like even like later, you know, trying to deny things and trying to you know, kind of try and keep things the way they were. It's very real, and especially since she's supposed to be like 12, you know, that is the mindset of a 12-year-old. It's like they could be super happy, but it's like when kind of reality kind of hits, it's like, you know, they don't want to accept it.
And then with like,
even for Dipper,
yeah, like with Dipper, like it's, again, every character could get annoying, like for just a bit longer, and like that knob gets turned to 11, then you're just like, no, I'm done. Yeah. But like, you know, Dipper is just like curious and clever enough to like, you know, to really, like, you really see the passion in what he wants to do, like his passion and like the mysteries and everything, and that's what makes him interesting. And so like any more of that, and then it's just like, all right, kid, shut up for a second. Yeah. But like, again, like for them to make the show shorter, you don't get annoyed with the characters. Like Seuss would just get like more like stupid. Yeah, probably.
I feel like if they would have, I know Alex wouldn't allow it, but like if that were to somehow happen, like say like he got removed from it, which would be dumb because he does most of the voices anyway, but like you know, Seuss is the type of character where they could have totally continued to make him kind of like how they made Patrick, you know, or, like
Timmy's dad.
Yes. Because there's this one episode where Dipper does point out to Seuss, like, you always mess everything up. Yeah. And it feels like they probably could have played on that, and that's when he probably could have gotten really like, okay, I'm over this character.
And then...
But I know, like, Alex doesn't want that.
Yeah. And then you have, like, Grunkle Stan, who, like, again, you could turn that knob up to 11, and it's just like, oh, just like a, like, selfish, money-grubbing man, but, like, without spoilers, like, he has a lot of depth, he has a lot of, like, and he really cares a lot more, and so, like, for all of that to...
He's a very stereotypical kind of, like, older gentleman, like, kind of that era. I don't know what it is, but, like, looking at him and then, like, the way that Alex portrayed him, like, I know he portrayed him off his grandfather, but, like, I look at Stan and I'm like, and that's a man who grew up, like, he's one of those, like, American...
Yeah, working hard.
Yeah. Even though, again, like, you learn more about his past and stuff like that, and you're really like, oh, man, you know. But, like, the when you meet him as, you know, this, like, I think he's nearly 70, I think is what they said. You know, I can kind of see that time era with him, which I always find kind of interesting. You know, like, I don't know. I think it's really brilliant. Like, to me, like, I can see it. I don't know if others can, but, like, I really enjoy how Alex did that.
Yeah. And then, like, also, if the show had run any longer, like, maybe explore different, like, relationships with, like, Dipper and, like, but...
I know, you only care for one.
Yes, the Wendy Dipper ship, because I am biased.
Understandable. No, like, I do end up liking them more. I mean, I do like the other one, but like Wendy and
Dipper. But like.
But I love it.
Sorry. Just like the show being so brilliant in that, like. It has mystery, and it has, like, plot twists, and, like...
And it's just really different. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it.
And just, like, all of your expectations can just, like, go out the window just because, like... Just so much happens that it's just, like, I didn't even think that, like...
Or what you think would happen, like, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one. There's a moment. It's not really spoiling anything, but it's kind of like a flashback for Mabel and Dipper. It's where she has the gum in her hair, and like it's on picture day or something, and like she's like crying to Dipper, and he has a hat on, and I think I said it too. I was like, just give her the hat, and he doesn't, and it's like, and he does the other thing, and so it's just like, because I found someone who did a drawing of that where it was like the reaction watching it, and they said the same thing, and they did the exact same thing, like reaction. I was like, this person gets me. So I was like, yes. But yeah, like, I'm really glad that Alex just kept it to the one summer, which is what he said in Between the Pines, is it's only meant for one summer, and a summer is only literally like 3 months. So honestly, like, I think he pushed it because the show, it dates to like literally end of August. And normally most schools like start in August. So I mean, they kind of pushed it, but I get it. But they did really well about keeping to it. I guess you could say, since there's 40 episodes, that could be like the 40 plus days. So that should probably cover like every day of the summer, at least. And
you get to see like the like in between stuff and like the short episodes.
Yes, I think one of my favorite ones is the one with the mailbox. Because that's also when I just want to like facepalm with Mabel at the end. It's like, honey, I just want to hold you because
what?
Stop.
What is your favorite episode?
I was actually thinking about this like today or yesterday. I definitely think my favorite one is Seuss and the Real Girl. It's in season 2, just because I keep watching it over and over again and I don't get tired of it. I think it's just really clever. And it's just hilarious to me because it
has like a relationship spin.
It's a relationship spin, 2 different aspects of it. Obviously it focuses on Seuss. And Seuss is supposed to be like I assume he's about 22, so he's like, you know, our generation's age. So like, you know, we could probably relate to him a little bit more. And so I think it's just really interesting how they did it, and like the different points throughout it. It's really funny. And I applaud Alex so much. Oh my gosh. Literally this man, I don't know if too many people know about this, but he's, I think, anywhere from 27 to 29. So he's young. He's only a little bit older than I am, and he started at my age that I am now. And literally, like, from what I heard, Disney came to him because he's worked on stuff on like Disney XD. He was working on Fish Hooks. He plays Clamantha, which is this clam who sounds like the hand witch. So it's hilarious because like one night I was like, hey, this is on, and then I was like, okay, where's Alex? And so I looked it up and I was like, hey. But literally, like, I think like they came to him and they were just like, hey, we need a story. Give us a story. And I think he was just
and like, boy, do I have a story for you.
Well, I think it was that, but I think it was also just like, okay, like, what can I give them? And so like he basically like gave them like the story about him. And for anyone who doesn't know, like, Dipper and Mabel are based off of him and his twin sister Ariel. And then Stan is based off of his grandfather Stan. And then in Between the Pines, he explains like Seuss is based off of like one of the employees. Unfortunately, they didn't have a whole lot for Wendy, because I love Wendy, but like all they said for her was like, if you can imagine like the coolest girl, that's what Wendy would be. I would still probably ask him if I got the chance, like, who is she really based off of? You know, everybody, like, he based off everyone or like anything off of something, and it's just really unique. And I don't know, like, someone like me who is an artist who has always dreamed about, you know, working, you know, at an animation studio. You know, at first I had thoughts of doing animation, and then I realized that's a lot of work, and it's intimidating. And then who thought about backdrops? Can't do backdrops. So for someone who just focuses on character design, you know, to think about, like, you know, how they came to him, and he's so involved, like everything from director to probably maybe producer, definitely writer. I'm sure.
And
then voice, you know, he does Stan, he does Seuss, he does McGucket, he does the main villain, and he does like a bunch of other characters. And I'm just like, man, this guy, this is literally like the dream job for anyone. And the fact that he's done it so young, and he's obviously done with it. It ended February, I think was the finale. Awesome finale. There's probably one little thing I wish that he would have done differently, but we won't go into that because spoilers. But I've talked to you about it. But he's now going to be doing something on Fox. Yeah. And so I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. I don't know how kid-friendly it's going to be, or if it is going to be kid-friendly. I don't know what he's going to do, but either way, I'm sure it's going to be just as crazy and fun as Gravity Falls, and I'm super excited, and I'm just like, man, this guy's set. Like, this is the kind of job I would love to have.
By the way, my favorite episode is
Yes,
Bottomless Pit. It's kind of like a cheat one because, like, it contains
it's
like
a filler
few,
episode.
Well, yeah, but it still like contains a few stories in it, but like it's still like one of my favorite quotes. Like, it's
nothing.
And it's the first line in the episode, but it's, in this great land of ours there are many great pits, but none more bottomless than the bottomless pit, which, as you can see here, is bottomless.
It's just awesome.
Yeah.
I love the humor so much, and it's I don't know, it's a really different kind of humor, which I don't think a whole lot of people have seen yet, or well, maybe they have, I guess, in a sense. I kind of feel like maybe Adventure Time kind of kicked it off.
Yeah.
Ever since then, there's been a lot of shows that have been similar. There was Regular Show.
Yeah.
Then Gravity Falls. Now you got Steven Universe, which is wonderful.
Yeah. We could have a whole other hour conversation about Steven Universe.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I got time for that.
It's great. You guys should go watch it.
Over the Garden Wall.
Over the Garden Wall. And that one, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Do not even get me started on that one.
Just watch Over the Garden Wall. Like,
I don't want to say too much about it because I want
just because it's so, like...
It's ingenious what they did about it.
Yeah.
I won't say any spoilers, but, like, first, watch it all the way through. I think there's only about 12 episodes.
Yeah, it's really short anyways.
Elijah Wood is the main character, if you guys are big fans of him. He plays Wart. He's... Wart? Yeah, he plays the main character. He's a big brother to this kid named Greg. And it follows both of them through this whole thing. And I don't want to really say anything about it, but basically...
It's also just really hard to begin to describe.
Well, after watching it and then knowing what it's based off of, it makes so much sense. But, like,
like, describing just, like, the whole tone of the show is, like...
Essentially, it's about two brothers who find themselves...
Lost in a forest.
Yeah, and they're just trying to get home. That's all we can say. Because that's not giving away too much. Because that is literally, like, what it opens up with. You see them walking through the forest, and they're like, we have to get home. And, like, you don't have any other context, but you get more as you watch the show. You meet new characters. There's something different with every episode. At the end, it explains a whole lot. And then, and only then, should you go out onto the internet and find out the true thing behind this whole brilliant little animation. Because when I was told, I flipped out. And I hurt my head because I flipped out. True story.
But, yeah, I mean, okay, so, since we, like, it's late and I need to be wrapping up. But,
sorry.
But, as far as, like, shows that, like, yes, I'm sure that, like, a lot of you are like, ooh, kids shows, like, why would I watch all these kids shows? Like, no, like, just because it's animated or just because it's, like, on Disney or Cartoon Network, like, it doesn't mean that, like, the show is any less good. Like, I mean, The Simpsons is still going.
Yeah.
Futurama is
That one was really
it's
good.
probably one of my favorite shows, if not my favorite show.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yes, not for kids as much, but like,
no, it's under the same.
Animation has so much potential to do something different.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it's definitely not just for kids. I mean, you have Futurama, which also falls under the category of like anything that's like Adult Swim. So like you have like Family Guy or American Dad. Like that's very much not for kids.
Rick and Morty is so good. I know you don't watch it, but like Rick and Morty is so good.
I just can't get past the artwork. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry to the animators. I'm sorry.
But just, and I've been reading listening to on audiobook Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And so like shows like Futurama and shows like Rick and Morty are definitely like stuff that sort of like captures that whole like funny science fiction sort of feel. Yeah. But like but still like super clever shows like Rick and Morty and Futurama, but also super clever like Gravity Falls and Steven Universe. Adventure Time, not as much lately.
I haven't been keeping up with it, honestly. Like, I know they were getting kind of really in-depth, especially with Marceline. They did like a 8-part thing with her. It was interesting. I watched most of it. I think there was a few episodes somehow I missed. I don't know why, but like, I don't know. Like,
anyways,
it was good, but at the same time, it's like it came back around and it didn't really resolve itself somehow. Okay. I don't know. Sorry.
But like, even something like Adventure Time, like that has so much depth to it.
Yeah.
Too like, something like Regular Show, something like, what am I missing here? But like, yeah, all these shows, even though they're for kids, there's definitely something. What?
I was gonna say, especially for like Steven Universe, I think it's really interesting how now with cartoons, as I said, they're not just for children, they're for adults, but I guess in a good way, it is for children. The Steven Universe, it is obviously focusing on, focusing on kind of a lesbian relationship with some of the characters. There's the characters called the Crystal Gems that Rebecca Sugar created. It's a really wonderful show. I love it. It's up there with Gravity Falls.
And also...
but like, it's really interesting because season 1, they didn't really have that as much. It was very undertone, and it wasn't until like the later, like halfway through and on up into season 2 that they're still working on now. They definitely obviously had that because the Crystal Gems, well, that's just a small group, but the Gems as a whole is kind of like an alien race that you'll find out.
Yeah.
But they're only female.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting how, like, I feel like personally she's doing this in a very interesting way, especially since, the equal rights or with like equal marriages and stuff like that. I think it's really interesting how she's playing on that. Especially now.
But yeah.
So it's kind of warming children up to that kind of idea.
Stuff like that. And then if you want to even go back and watch like Avatar: The Last Airbender or like now Legend of Korra, like all these shows that like are really smart, have really like subversive stuff that they're saying. I mean, Legend of Korra had like some of the most like in-depth like villains that were so historically relevant.
Yeah, it's I don't know about season 2 as much, but definitely season 1, season 3, and season 4 definitely had some pretty big historical kind of based villains. I say 2 not so much because that seemed just a very general, like the villain was power crazy, kind of thing, but we won't go there.
But yeah, like just
even
animation.
For something that was only supposed to be season, like a single season, the villains I thought were really
But
wonderful.
This is all just
Sorry.
to wrap up and say that, like, just because it's animated or seemingly for kids doesn't mean that, like, there isn't something in it for you. Like, still definitely go and see Disney movies, go see Pixar movies. Zootopia was very, very good. I'm sure Moana will be very, very good.
I'm so excited.
Like, there's so much really, like, quality stuff, rather than just kind of some of the, no offense to some shows, but, like, kind of garbage that is just kind of spewed out nowadays. Like, and so there's definitely whole worlds that are rich in information that you could definitely get into. So high quality stuff that eventually Sable is going to work on and draw for.
Keep your fingers crossed.
No, she is definitely going to work for, because they need you. They need you.
I don't know about that. I still have I have a long way to go.
At which point you can find Sable's art at
on my Instagram. If you just look up Painted Crow, CROW _artistry, you'll find me. You'll see most of my artwork. There's a lot of sketches right now. I don't have too many of my digital stuff up yet. But as I progress on, I will have a link in that bio to my Facebook, where you'll find more of my photography as well. And then hopefully to my Behance, which I need to update. Yeah. That's the definite site where you'll find a lot of my artwork.
And then there's also Solstice Cosplay that we are both a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been going to conventions. We just went to NakaCon. Isn't our cover photo the sailor picture now?
No, it's still kind of the I guess you could say kind of logo for right now. Yeah. We haven't really worked on it.
It's fine.
Someone that one of our friends does, she's a graphic designer, and so she created, it literally says Solstice Cosplay, so it'll be kind of hard to miss. And our little avatar picture is of our costumes from Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah. So, yeah, look for the profile picture of me very, very terrified. And then there's me, but you're already listening to me. Also, train of thought, I am hoping to have the rest of Solstice on this podcast. And so keep an ear out for, the rest of Solstice. At least
two other members.
Yeah, at least the main central members of Solstice.
There's only 4. But we have others, but only if they're able to come on.
But yeah, so look at Sable's art, listen to my music, and love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong. Thanks for listening.
Bye.